What's up, people? I'm here at my home in Vegas, and I've been watching the ICE protest in Los Angeles, and I've been following it very closely because most of you that know me on YouTube and other social media sites know that I'm Mexican American Colombian as well. My mom was born in Colombia, rest in peace, and my dad was born in El Paso, Texas. But my grandma Gonzalez was Mexican native, born in Silver City, New Mexico, when it was still under the Mexican flag in the 1800s, before it became part of the Union. Before it became Nuevo Mexico, it was just Mexico. And my grandma was a Native American Mexican, born in Silver City when it was still Mexico, so she's Mexican native, rest in peace as well. And so my dad Antonio was considered Chicano, and I'm very proud of my Chicano roots and my Colombian roots as well. But having said that, this is why I'm following the ICE protest in LA. And I'm going to share a little insight with you people that are involved, with my people, I should say, that are involved in the protest. It's all good to protest, see, but use this instead of these. And I'm going to share some advice with you that was shared with me through a big homie named Dan Varela, better known as Black Dan from Eastside White Fence. I don't ever talk about the mob and my friendship with them. I was never a made man. I was never a member of the mob, but I did have close friends. I was cellies with Lalo from Lomas, rest in peace. Little man, Donald Ortiz, rest in peace, from Whittier. Lalo from Lomas. Little man from Whittier, Barrio Locos. My neighbor was Pee Wee from Avenues, a very good friend of mine. I was always in close contact with them. And I was sealed up with these gentlemen as a convict of the California Department of Corrections. Like I said, I was not one of them, but I was friends with them. And I ended up selling up with a couple of them. Because I like their style. They're smart. Daniel gave me a lot of advice. Rest in peace. The reason I don't like talking about my friendship with them is because that's neither here nor there. I don't like fronting anybody off. I don't like putting anybody on the spot. If you're not here to defend yourself, I won't bring up your name. That's just always been me. Even though nowadays I'm just a man of God and I just do my own thing, I still have a lot of beliefs that I value, and I have always had that warrior mentality, the Azteca warrior heart, being that my grandma was native, Azteca, native, Mexicana. I've always had that warrior mentality, and a lot of you that are throwing rocks at the police and all that, let me share a little something with you guys in regards to that. When I was in prison, I got into a fist fight with two correctional officers in the California Rehabilitation Center at Norco, which was open dorm setting. I was an N number. I was sent there through the court system as a civil commitment because of my drug addiction. While there, I ended up getting into it with two correctional officers. One of them was correctional officer Ray, and Monsavia. That was the one that started the whole fiasco by putting his hands on me and pushing me into the wall, talking about put your hands against the wall, and he pushed me, and so I ended up fist fighting with them, and his partner Ray got me from the back, and I flipped him over my shoulder, and then I, big ol' ended up catching a new case for assaulting 2 correctional officers. While I was in Palm Hall, I got transferred from CRC to Palm Hall, and that's where I became friends with Black Dan Varela. I knew him from the county jails. I was involved in the guerra, the war back in the 80s. And when they were coming through the county jail, there was still a war going on, black and brown war, which has to do with prison politics, nothing about race or nothing like that. You know, it was all prison politics. And I was always by their side fighting in the war. So they knew me as, like Daniel said, you've always been a good warrior, fought by our side, Mando. And, you know, he took a liking to me, and I was never his celly, but when we would walk the Palm Hall yard, he would always call me, even though some of his brothers were there on that little tiny exercise yard of Palmas. He would always just call me, and I would walk the little tiny yard with him. And he gave me some advice for that case of assault on 2 correctional officers. He asked me, Mando, now you're in here in the hole with me, and was it worth it? You know, now you got 2 assault cases on correctional officers. Was it worth it, Mando? You could be looking at a lot of time if the DA in San Bernardino, because it happened at Norco, they sent the DA referrals out to San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office for possible prosecution, a new case. And he goes, you were just here for drugs, now you got these 2 felony, prison felonies on assault on the 2 correctional officers. Was it worth it? And I thought about it, and he goes, think about it. Use this. Was it worth it? What was the whole reason behind you fighting with them, fist fighting with them? And I said, well, the guy was disrespectful, and he shoved me into the wall, and he told me that he had to search me. He wanted to search me, and I ended up arguing with them, telling them not to manhandle me that way, and he got crazy with me, so we ended up fighting, and then his partner jumped in. So that's how I ended up assaulting him. And he said, well, what if you would have just turned around and put your hands on the wall and let him search you? If you know he was already an idiot, knucklehead, you don't want to stoop down to his level and start arguing with him. Show him that you're bigger than that, and just turn around, put your hands on the wall. Maybe the guy was having a bad day or what. Whatever the case may be, the guard, he tells me like this. He says, they're people too, they have to do their 8 hours, and they go home to their families, and sometimes it's best just to let them do their jobs. Something like that could have been avoided by you just turning around and putting your hands on the wall and let them search you, and you would have went to chow, and that would have been the end of it. But now you sit here with a new charge. So basically, like he used to say, from the treasure chest of all good things, Mando, sometimes it's best not to use violence. Sometimes it's best to use this instead of these, once again. Let me give you another perfect example, people. You got these guys on the internet telling you, hey man, fuck the police and fuck the ICE and all that. Okay, that's all fine and dandy, but when they're telling you to fight with them, to continue fighting with them, throwing rocks at them and what have you, those majority of those people telling you this on the internet, like Daniel used to say, they have a peanut brain, a brain the size of a peanut. They don't use this. They use this all the time to, defuse a situation. And they use nothing but violence. So sometimes, like he said, it could be avoided. But when he left me in charge of the prison, before the feds came and got Daniel, he left me in charge of all the yards, even yards that I wasn't on, that were at Chino, like West, East, CIM, Mainline. So I was, in contact with all those guys that were in charge of all those little yards, and I was the one, doing all the business for them. And there was a lot of money, and a lot of people know drugs go on in prison. A lot of that money and stuff was going through my hands, and a bunch of knuckleheads came on to our unit, which was Cypress Palm Hall Overflow mainline. They had cut me loose. The two guards that I assaulted, the DA didn't pick it up. So all they did was just gave me a 115 write-up and sent me to the main line and put me up for exclusion from my N number. So while I'm there on the main line, Black Dan was below me. The first tier is Palm Hall Overflow. The first tier, your last 5 cells, you're behind double doors. I was there when I slipped my handcuffs in Palm Hall and stabbed a rival. They put me back there for 30 days. In the last 5 cells, like I said, there's a big door here, and then a little walkway, and then you go behind bars, and they close the bars electrically. It's an electrical, or I don't know, they call it pulling the bar. The guard pulls the bar, and the gate, the bar gate closes. So you're behind the gate with bars, and then a door with a little window. That's why I call it behind double doors. And the guard opens that little window and looks in and closes it, so you can't see the outside. And they put me back there for 30 days when I slipped my handcuffs and hid in the classification room to stab a rival. So I already knew the first year because I was down there when I was in the hole. So I was in contact with Daniel, and Daniel ended up going to the feds. That was back in the early 90s when the feds came and got him. But he left me in charge of everything. And Bats from Del Sol and Boo Boo and them from San Diego, from Logan, they were in the oil, but they knew from their brother that I was the one in charge of the main line. So some knuckleheads came in, and there was a big old, on the tier, when the lights out, we all had an agreement, the different races, that there was no more talking from cell to cell, no more yelling across the tier down to the from the 3rd tier to the 2nd tier. After lights out, we all had that agreement that that's time to rest. You know, that's when we can unroll our beds and go to sleep. But when this bus load came in from the main line, they were talking about all this nonsense about Mexicans this, Mexicans that, and I ended up writing the fellas and asking, hey, what do we do? Should we, like Daniel always told me in the Huilas, get 2 of the camaradas together, 3 of you, and talk it out, and if the 3 of you agree on something, then so be it. That way, you get other people, their disposition when it comes to whatever needs to be handled. That way, you get other people's frame of mind as to how to deal with the situation at hand. So, like he told me in the Huila, so I did that. I sent a Huila to all the different cells, to the homies, the Sureños. That's the group of Hispanics that I belong to, was a Sureño. I sent to all the Sureños a Huila saying, what do we do? I already got at these dudes that came in on that bus from that riot, and they don't want to go with the program. They say they run their own and fuck these Mexicans and all this. So what ended up happening is all the homies said in the kite, I said, yay or nay, should we jump it off, yay or nay? And all of them put, yeah, actually all the homies that were on the 2nd and 3rd tier, because 1st tiers where Daniel was, Palm Hall Overflow, that's the whole egg, where the last 5 cells are behind double doors. So that tier didn't count. But 2nd and 3rd tier, we can't see down there because it's the cement floor, and they have them guys segregated from us. But I used to send the kite through the vent to Daniel. He was below me, and he would say, pull it, and I would pull the string up, and I'd get the kite and read what his answer was. So that's how I knew he was down there. But when the feds came and got him, like I said, they took him to the federal building downtown LA where all these riots are happening right now. And I never saw him again. That was the last time. When I was in the streets, he would send me a letter here and there, or a huila with the homies from West Side Longo. Scorpion brought me a kite. He left, he was a Mexicano from West Side Longo. He brought me a kite from Daniel, and that's the only way I was in contact with him. I would write to him at the Federal Detention Center, and he would write to my apartment, and that's how we stayed in contact. But when all this was taking place with all the loud talking and the disrespecting, the homie said, yeah, let's go. So I said, okay, because the guards would open sometimes the second or the third tier. It all depended if the guard just wanted to walk up to the second tier and open for chow, and then go to the third tier and open for chow. That's the way they would do it. Or sometimes the guard would just go all the way to the third tier, open that cell block first, that tier first, the third tier, let all those inmates down to the chow hall. Then he would walk down to the second tier and say, watch the gates opening, chow time. Boom, he pull the bar, that's what they call it, and all the cells would open, and then we would follow suit down to the chow hall. But we never knew what tier was going to go first. It was on the guard, to decide which tier went first, the second or third. So I sent the kite to all the homies saying, I got a piece down here, you guys got one up there. Whatever tier opens, if this tier opens first, I'm going to use the toy to make a statement to these guys that we're not with all that disrespect that they're talking when lights are out about the riot they were in and fuck these Mexicans and all this. It was just unnecessary what they were doing. So what happened is they opened the third tier first, and the homies got off. And so next thing you know, a bunch of people ended up getting hurt. They went over to the hole, and while they were over there, now Bats, that's all, wants to know what the fuck happened. Like, why did this shit jump off? And the homies had to tell the truth, Mondo said, whatever tier opened up, we get off. And next thing you know, the guards come to my cell. I guess they put two and two together. They found the fucking rope that was tied from the line that I had from my cell, the second tier, down to the first tier where Daniel used to be. They found that during the search. So now they knew I was the one in contact with the big homie down there. So they came and got me. Now I'm in the hole with all the fellas that were involved in the riot. And I thought I was going to get hit because I'm the one that made the call to get off. See? And when I ended up going to the yard, I was expecting to get hit, to get stabbed. But I still went out there. And thankfully, Bats from Del Sol approached me. There was no exercise. Usually everybody lines up for the exercises. That morning, there was no exercises. He called me to the middle of the yard. I walked up here. He met me here in the middle of the yard. And he gave me some precious advice as well. He said, Mondo, next time, call your shots better. Because all of this could have been avoided. See, so, and that's a big guy right there. Bats from Del Sol. And he said, all right, everybody line up for exercises. And that was the end of it. But I almost got to the point where I thought I was going to lose my life for making that bad call. Because once, Bats from Del Sol said, next time, call your shots better, because all this could have been avoided. And he was absolutely right. It could have been. I could have got at the black guy that we were in contact with on the big yard when we had yard release on the main line. I could have got at him and said, hey, check this out, there's peace between us right now, there's nothing going on, but your people that got rolled up in that riot, they're disrespecting over the tier about the race riot they were involved in. Can you talk to them and let them know about the lights out policy? See, I could have went on about it that way, by using diplomacy, like Daniel used to tell me. Use diplomacy. Diplomacy is when you find a solution without violence, in a peaceful way. That's what diplomacy means, with another separate group of people. That's what diplomacy means, to be diplomatic, in other words. And that's the kind of good advice from the treasure chest of all good things that Daniel would share with me. Rest in peace, Daniel. But once again, I was a nobody, but I was schooled by them. And to this day, even though I'm not with the program anymore and I'm just doing my own thing, I still have mad respect for them. Mosca, rest in peace. Donito from Wheatmoss, rest in peace. Good friend of mine, did a lot of worked with Donito when he was in the LA County Jail when I was on the main line before I went to the high power module. Donito was on main line, so was I. He was from my area, I'm from the Harbor area, Longo, East Side. He was from Weedmonds, and so we were, doing things together at the county. Lalo from Lomas, myself, my good friend Pee-wee Geary from Avenues, a friend of mine that I didn't really get to know too good, but he gave me that advice on the yard that day. Guys from Del Sol, his homeboy Boo Boo from Logan. All them guys are big guys, My old celly, rest in peace, little man from LiL'Mando'Locos, Donald Ortiz. I mean, I knew so many of them way back in the day, and they were always very intelligent. Like Daniel would tell me, always go with what your heart tells you to do, Mando, and you never go wrong. Instead of using this and jump to conclusions like you always have been, and taking off on people, stabbing people like I did in the hole when I came out of my cuffs and other riots that I was involved in. I used to be a knucklehead until that day Daniel got me to slow my roll and to, like, next time, you could have just turned around and got against the wall and got searched, and that would have been the end of it. There are people too, they have their bad days or good days just like we do. I'm not telling you to be their friend, but sometimes you could avoid getting into it with them because they're just doing their job, what they got to do as correctional officers. And then years later, when I became a federal firefighter, a first responder for the United States Forest Service, United States Department of Agriculture Forest Service, I was certified and trained and certified as a Type 1 wildland firefighter with the Bertavite Hotshot Crew. I was assigned to the Bertavite Ranger Station in Fire Barracks. That was my station in the Angeles National Forest, the Los Angeles River Ranger District. While out on assignment with my crew, it was 20 firefighters in the Bertavite Hotshot Crew. Sometimes we would break off into little 6-man crews with the squad boss to do our own little fire assignment. And sometimes we carry TNT, dynamite, C4, plastic explosives. And one time out on fire assignment, we were working with the LA County Sheriffs. They were doing the evacuations while we were cutting line around the canyon where there was a bunch of homes up there and ranches. And while we were doing that, they were evacuating the area. But when we took a little break, we went up on the ledge there where the street was, and one of the officers from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department recognized me, and from the high power module, when I used to go to handcuff to the shower, he would walk me, and he was like, "Wait a minute, you're a firefighter? How'd you get this job? You were ex-felon." He's like, "How'd you become a federal employee?" He was like shocked because I was a firefighter, federal firefighter, a first responder, basically like him, a first responder. And he's like, "I remember walking you to the shower when you were in high power. You were one of the badasses. You were always stabbing people like I stabbed that guy in the county. That's why I went to high power." And he remembered all that. And he's like, "How the heck?" Like, man, God works in mysterious ways. He told me like that. See, and so I learned not to be their friend, but to let them do their job, because that's what they do. That's what they get paid to do. So you people that are telling the homies out there in Cali and LA to throw rocks to the Hudas and do all that, you're going to have to answer up for all that. If you go to jail and you go to prison, if you get a bunch of people hurt, like I did that day when I made that dumb call about let's get off on these cats, the big guys don't like that shit. If you go to prison, they're going to question, whoa, why did you get all these homies to throw rocks at cops, and a couple of them got shot with rubber bullets in the head and died. Now you're in jail for their murder. Could all that have been avoided? Couldn't you have just protested with signs and not gotten these people hurt? That's what's going to end up happening to you cats, man. So like I said, I'm nobody these days, just a man of God. I look at everybody as just people. And those guards that are out there from the National Guard and the Army, the Marines and all the LAPD sheriffs, Trump is the one sending them to do that. They're just doing their jobs. They have no say-so. A lot of them are Chicano. They have family that are here, migrants as well, and it hurts them to have to, make a line between you and them, and the migrants that they're trying to arrest. They're just doing their job. They're being sent there by the higher authority than them, by their overhead, which is the president, Donald Trump. He's the one sending them there to do all that. They're just doing their jobs once again. So don't take none of this personal. If you can, when they're out there in the line and you're protesting the ICE raids, do it by using a little diplomacy. Don't be that peanut-sized brain, vato, like Daniel used to tell me, that has a brain the size of a peanut and just jump to conclusions. No, look at everything from a big picture, weigh it out. Two wrongs don't make a right, like Daniel used to tell me from the treasure chest of all good things. So violence with violence doesn't make things right. That's the way I was taught by them. Sometimes, once again, it's better to use diplomacy than aggression. By using this, use this and not this, because protesting could be done in a way where you're not going to lower yourself to their standard by how they're rushing migrants and arresting them and all that. You don't want to lower yourself to their level by jumping on them and stoning them and throwing bottles at them. All that could be avoided. Once again, two wrongs don't make a right. So I'm just going to be very clear. If you can, avoid the violence, people. It's not worth it. It's not. In the long run, if you end up getting somebody killed or you're involved in, let's say, you threw a rock and you hit a cop and the cop dies, now you got a murder charge, and in the long run, you're going to answer up for that charge. And if you get somebody killed that's a protester, and because you were with them protesting and he threw a rock and the cop shot him and you get arrested with the dead body, you have that charge of murder because you were involved in an incident where he was throwing rocks and you were as well, and he got killed by the police, so now you got the murder. That's what I'm talking about. See, you're going to end up catching that murder, and then when you hit that prison, the big guys are going to ask, why are you in here? And then you're going to explain to them that you were protesting and you got the homie riled up, and the homie and you were throwing rocks and the cops killed them, and a bunch of other camaradas or friends, camaradas got injured. You're going to be the one answering up to it if you were leading the charge. So once again, that's all I'm trying to tell you is cool heads prevail. See, so just use it, once again, a little diplomacy. Don't become a statistic where he died because he was protesting the ICE raids. You want to be a warrior or whatever. You want to be Chicano, Azteca warrior. That's all fine and dandy, but once again, look at things from a big picture. Take a step back and weigh things out. Does the good outweigh the bad? And like Daniel would tell me, always go with what your heart tells you to do. Usually we have good hearts, the Chicanos. We have a good heart, and usually our heart tells us that violence is not the way to go about things. But if we have to use it, we're like the warrior mentality. Let's go, vamos, recio. Let's do this hard when we go hard. But a lot of that could be avoided by just using some common sense, people. I'm not trying to tell you, like Daniel used to tell me, I'm not telling you to be their friends or what, but use your politicians, your city politicians from the city of LA, and talk to them by writing letters, sending emails. Have them talk for you. When you go to vote them out of office. That's how you go about it. See, without having to use these. Vote them out of office. Use your community leaders to speak up at the rallies without violence. Like Martin Luther King would say, violence is not the way. Cesar Chavez, the great Cesar Chavez, from the Chicano movement era, the era that I was raised in, back in the 60s, 70s. That was one of his main objectives, was not to get the raza into a fight with the cops and with the government, with the soldiers. He would use diplomacy, and he would join forces with, like, Martin Luther King, with the African American brothers, and they would show their unity as strength. The raza and the African Americans would march together. That's the way to do things, people. Use your community leaders to express your displeasure with the ICE raids and all that. Once again, them guys are just doing their jobs, man. A lot of them are Chicanos, just like us, but they're just doing their job. Trump is sending them to do. See, so you have to look at it from that point of view, people. That's about it. The black and brown, when you're together, united, you show. How could I put it? You show. You show power. You show unity. You show strength. See, and that's one thing that a lot of government officials don't want us to do, is for us to be together, and they want us to fight and kill each other. Back in the day, like the wars that I was involved in, I wish that I could change all that, but I can't, because I have a lot of good friends that are African American. A lot of them are standing up for us right now. So let's join forces with them, and let's go to our community leaders, like the lady that took me in when I got out of prison, and I changed my old way of life from gangster to firefighter to boxing coach to doing TV interviews with Canelo Alvarez and them guys. Not to brag, but I got a lot of YouTube videos with some high-powered fighters in my corner. Me working with them as a volunteer assistant coach, with like the likes of Canelo Alvarez, the big Mexican fighter. Before I did all that, I was a knucklehead. Before I changed my old way of life, but when I did, and I was ready to move away from Long Beach, my own stomping grounds, and relocate to somewhere else, I ended up moving to Watts, California, and a lady by the name of Maxine Waters had a program called The Parents of Watts off 103rd and New Dillon. I lived in that home, and she's a big politician to this day. Her name is, once again, I just said it a minute ago, Maxine Waters. Go to those kind of politicians and voice your opinion to her by writing letters, once again emails, and have her speak up for you in Washington at the House, or the House of Representatives, or the Senate, where all the senators meet, and that's where you go about changing laws and what have you. Have your representative like Maxine Waters speak up for you. People do things accordingly. That's about it. May God bless all of you, and may He keep all of you safe as well. That's about it. Later.